What is up, guys? It's Michael from Collectables.com, and today we are checking out a figure that is near and dear to my heart, and definitely a figure that I feel is a contender for the figure of the year. And that's just my opinion. But once we check this bad boy out, will my opinion still be the same? I certainly hope so, because I'm a massive Gargoyle fan. So without further ado, let's check it out. It is, of course, the Goliath Neca Ultimate Figure. He is the first in the line from the Gargoyles figures that Neca will be releasing. We're of course going to see Bronx, Thalog, Hudson and Demona also coming throughout the end of 2021 and into 2022. So stand by, there's going to be an awesome influx of Gargoyles figures. So this one here, for me, was a bit of a surprise because I'd started spending all this money trying to get the vintage Gargoyle figures, and in Australia that ain't an easy task. So there just weren't that many figures around. I had to sort of go to the UK, to the US to try and pick these bad boys up. I don't know why, because I feel like upon release back in the day we did have some of these in stores. I don't know what happened after that, but unfortunately I had to sort of start scouting the rest of the world, so to speak. But anyway, once I started doing that, all of a sudden Neca announced we're doing a Gargoyles line. So that was definitely awesome news. So the figure's just been released pretty recently in the US. We are importing them at Culture Shock Collectables from the US, as Neca Australia is not getting any of these lines or sending us any whatsoever. So they're all coming from the States, and our customers and supporters at Culture Shock Collectables have been super pumped, and they've all started receiving their pre-orders, which is so awesome. We've been seeing some great pictures coming up on our Instagram feed and stuff like that. So really awesome to see, and I can't wait to bust this bad boy open and see what all of the fuss is about. So as you can hear, I'm pretty pumped to get this bad boy out of the box. But before we do that, there's one really important thing we need to do, and that's check out the artwork on the box. Now, of course, with Neca and any of their Ultimate figures, the artwork is truly stunning. Let it be the Ninja Turtles, their horror line, or anything they really put their name to when it comes to the Ultimate line. And definitely this is living up to that expectation. You see this amazing artwork, of course, of Goliath on that castle fort within New York City, the Gargoyles logo, and of course the Goliath Ultimate action figure. On the side we have a picture of the actual figure, Goliath looking pretty mean right there, and of course the Neca logo, and of course Gargoyle logo again. On the backs, of course, we have a bit of a synopsis, what's Gargoyles about, etc., and a bit about Goliath. And some great menacing photos of Goliath as well. It gives you a bit of an idea of how you can maybe pose this. Love the book right there. And of course, the chili. And another great pose. On the other side, another menacing photo of Goliath. And of course, what Neca do so well for their inbox collectors and just sort of a collector overall is they have the window flap so that you can see the figure, and of course that awesome artwork on the inside of the flap. So there you can see a Goliath inside that plastic prison right there, and he looks pretty awesome. A couple of head sculpts, some hands, the book, and the chili. So now we can bust this bad boy out of that plastic. All right, so Goliath is out of the box, and of course this is the plastic shell that you'll find internally, and you can see of course the figure comes with that jalapeno chili or whatever it might be, correct me if I'm wrong, the book, a couple of different hand sculpts, the second head sculpt, of course the Goliath figure and his tail. Behind that in the shell is of course those stunning wings. Some awesome wingspan right there. So can't wait to get those out and take a closer look. Very cool. And as you can see, the scale of this figure is pretty awesome, and we'll definitely see that in comparison to some of the vintage figures as well very soon. All right, so after thousands of years, or months anyway, he is out of the packaging, and the first thing I've got to say, and the first thing I noticed when getting him out of that packet And once again, as with any Neca figure, you're going to need a good pair of scissors to cut off all the ties, etc. But the one thing I notice is he's got a bit of weight to him. Like, he's not a really light figure. So very, very nicely put together is my first impression. And have a look at that head sculpt. That is absolutely freaking cool. And the hair as well. Bit of shininess there. Not sure what's going on. It might just be the paint application. Loving the hair, and you can see those sort of swirls of almost bluey grey through the back of the hair and stuff as well. That really cool sort of cloth over his torso. At one point I actually thought this might actually be cloth in some of the photos that I had seen, promotional and stuff like that. It isn't, but damn, they've done some good work with the paint job on the actual cloth. As well. As you can see, the hole there for the tail. Really nice paint throughout the actual body, and as you can see there, some really cool veins and stuff throughout the arm, and you can see them running up into the back. So some good attention to detail there from Neca. Well done on that. And of course through the chest and stuff as well. As you can see, some veins and that's popping through his neck. So really nicely done by them. One thing that I sort of thought looked a little bit strange in some of the promotional photos was probably the feet. A little bit weird. I don't know, like, is he supposed to stand like, you know, like that? Or is he supposed to come up on them a little bit? I did have a few issues trying to stand him in any other way. The reason I thought maybe he needs to be sort of up a little bit on the toes is sort of just the way that, you know, some of the older figures are designed with obviously that sort of style. So obviously on the older figures, I just think that obviously works a lot better, easier for them to stand with and stuff. But I obviously get that, you know, modern articulation and stuff would have them sort of standing like that, and then the claw sort of hanging off the back. But obviously like that, you are going to find that it is a bit of a pain to pose because it is sort of back heavy and it will want to fall back. So just something to keep in mind. As you can see, he is ready to topple. But there are holes here for the pegs of a figure stand to go into. So maybe even just a Neca stand or any other sort of generic stand that you could use for figures could be a good one for displaying this figure, just so you can, you know, display him right sort of like that. So anyway, he's going to take a bit of playing with, I think, to display properly, especially once those wings and stuff are on. As you can see, I'm having a hell of a time even just getting him to stand properly. So for the sake of this exercise, let's just put him the way he's not supposed to be, and that's flat. But we will come back to that a bit after. What does he come with? He comes, of course, with that old book with some ancient script, or scribble through it, should I say. Nice detailing through the book. Sort of looks a bit leathery. It's got quite a few defects on it and stuff like that, being a very old book. So very nice little accessory. Also comes with that little jalapeno chili, which is pretty cool. It does come with a couple other hands, of course. It comes with another sort of somewhat semi-clenched fist. Once again, the veins and stuff through the hand, through the, you know, hand sculpt are cool. You can see the nails there. Hopefully the camera's picking all this up. Not too bad for you guys. Of course, you've got the clenched fist, right and left, right there. As you can see, really cool detail on the paintwork and of course on the nails. That's really cool as well. Now, of course, which gargoyle would be complete without a set of wings? And as you can see, he has a very awesome big wingspan, and you can see the detail here, like the cracking and the shine throughout his wings is absolutely awesome. These are quite stiff. There is absolutely no movement in these bad boys. So as you can see on the other side there, whereas you found that some of the older ones were a little bit more rubbery, not much more flex in the older ones anyway, but definitely very stiff. So it'll be interesting to see how they actually sit on him and how well he can stand with them on him. They aren't really heavy, so I'm not worried about the actual weight. It's more just him still toppling. But that detail is just absolutely stunning. Look at that metallic paint that they've put through it. They've really kicked goals with that, and I'm definitely looking forward to the draping wings that will come eventually with Bronx. So they're going to be re-releasing Bronx from Gargoyles. As you can see, this is an original, but they're going to re-release him in the Ultimates, and he's going to come with some accessories for Goliath, and one will be the draped style wings that we see with the cross of the claw that you see on the wings. So really looking forward to that. I feel like that probably should have come with this figure, either as well or as in a special edition or something, but I'm super glad we're getting it. And it's not a special edition, going to be a pain in the ass to get. So that's really good that we are getting it. So I can't wait to put that on him as well. So what we're going to do is pop the wings on and see how he looks with that. This is definitely an impressive wingspan, so it's going to be cool. One thing, guys, as always with Neca, make sure you heat up the joints. These figures are, of course, known for joints breaking and for joints to be quite tight. Like most of these, review videos, you see all these, I'm going to show you the articulation here and here and here. That actually scares the absolute living shit out of me when it comes to doing Neca figures, just because I know how tight some of them can be. I mean, they're not too bad throughout there, but these arms, holy cow, they are tight. So, we all know how much articulation these figures have. You don't need me to go through it, although I will give you some sort of indication. But just be a little bit careful. Always use a bit of hot water. There is absolutely no harm in dipping any of these parts in some boiling hot water for, even 10 seconds, and you'll find that things will just sit in easily and a lot better. The wings will go there underneath the head sculpt. We're probably going to have to pop this head sculpt to do so. They'll pop into there and there, and his tail, of course, will pop in there. So let's have a closer look at the tail as well, and then we'll pop the wings on. All right, so we've talked about the wings and all the other accessories, but what gargoyle is complete without a tail? Much like his wings, it's a much needed thing. Now, these things were the first thing that kids lost back in the day, and when you're buying these vintage gargoyles, if you get the tail, it is an absolute bonus, because those bad boys were going missing like there is no tomorrow. So it's cool to have a tail, because a lot of my vintage stuff don't. Some do, but not a lot. But either way, the tail is, of course, quite long. It does have an a wire through it, so you can bend this into a bit of shape, which is really cool, unlike the old vintage ones that were just a stiff one piece. Of course, with the wire, just again, be a little bit careful, because you don't want to snap it or anything like that, but you will get some good flex out of that. You can see it's sort of got a bit of almost like a joint here that I'm feeling, something like that. So that is cool. No wire in this end bit. The wire probably ends about there. So keep that in mind, but definitely a cool thing to have. There is also a joint right there, so you will be able to move that up, down, left, or up and down sort of thing to sort of better pose him. And of course, the last thing that Goliath comes with is that more menacing head sculpt. Look at that. That is one angry ass Goliath right there. Again, some really nice paint application. I hope you're seeing it pretty well and in focus right there. So you can see some great detail in the mouth and those teeth. They absolutely stick out. You can see there on that side angled view, there's a good opening there. Really, really nice. And again, that beautiful mane of his. Check that out. Really loving the hair sculpts on this. Very cool. And again, that sort of metallic bluey gray through the back of that head sculpt. So another really nice head sculpt. We can put these two sort of together so you can see. I'll pop this one on after for you guys as well. Standard, happy Goliath, somewhat happy, and then when he absolutely loses it. So very cool, a couple of head sculpts with this. And I think it's cool that they've gone and put a second head sculpt in with this figure. All right, so never fear, Goliath's head will be back. But I just wanted to show you guys what I meant about the joints. As you can see, this thing is a bit hard to move and clicks every time. Now I can guarantee you that if you slotted this into the holes on the back of Goliath and then tried to do this, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to lose that peg. And for the sake of this video, no one wants to hear a grown man cry, so I'm gonna show you what I do. I just pop it in some hot water in a cup, probably for 10 or so seconds. Never fear, it's not gonna destroy your figure, it's not gonna wreck anything, it will be fine. So as you can see, just popping it in, rest it there for a few seconds, take it out, give it a wipe. I should have grabbed something, but I didn't. And now all of a sudden, that peg's moving quite freely. You're gonna have that grinding noise, don't fear, it's just the way this joint seems to be set up, but it's not a big deal. So pop it in there for a good 10 seconds or so that it loosens up that joint. Give it a good wipe. I didn't grab a towel, but you guys get the gist. And then all you're gonna do is now slot it in, and there you go. It moves freely and it's not going to snap in half and absolutely ruin your figure. So we'll grab the next one quite simply again, pop it in there, have a bit of a chat, or just stare at how absolutely wicked this figure is, even without a head, and give it a wipe. Still a little bit stiff on this one, so we're going to pop him back in the hot water and just wait a little bit. Oh, and as you can see, it'll just pop into there eventually. So let's check it out. Still a little bit stiff, this one. So just take your time with this. Don't go snapping it. Pop it back in some hot water and go from there. All right, so the other wing took a little bit more work to really get that loosened. And as you can hear, it's gonna click every time, but don't stress. If you've heated it up enough to get it into that position, you should be fine. But remember, these will be dead straight when you take it out of the box. So don't just shove it in there and twist it, because God, I really think that may snap. So just be a little bit careful. Do the same thing with the actual tail if you like. You can pop that in some hot water, just the tail end. It'll just help it slot in a little bit better. And of course the tail will go just in there. So just lift that little cloth. Really sorry, buddy, to be doing this to your mate, but get that in there. And there you go. And as you'll see, you've got your movement there quite easily. So don't stress too much about the tail. He will slot in quite easily. So as you can see, that just looks so wicked, even without his head. And again, with your head sculpts, let's go crazy Goliath. Pop that in some hot water for a good 5 to 10 seconds, and you'll find that it'll fit straight on to the head peg really, really easily. All right, so some people like to use a hairdryer, some people like to use hot water. I just find hot water works really easy, and as you can see, I popped that head sculpt on, and it just sat on perfectly. It was a bit loose at the time, but obviously as it expands after being hot, it just fits perfectly. All I can say now that this figure is set up with the tail, the wings, the head sculpt back on is holy shit. Neca have outdone themselves with this one. I just want to show you the wingspan on this bad boy. Check that out. And doesn't he look awesome? Of course, with that sort of upset, angry head sculpt. Looks absolutely wicked. And as you can see, the sort of the difference. I know there's a different scale figures, but you've got the original bad boy at the front, and then of course the Neca Ultimate figure in the back. You can just see how amazing the detail and the wingspan and stuff like that actually is with these figures. So one thing I mentioned earlier in the video was his stance, and was he going to be able to stand on these feet the way that he is intended? Well, the answer is actually yes. You can make him stand pretty easily, and silly me forgot the tail. Obviously in the older figures as well, the tail was vital to having them stand up perfectly, and of course with this figure it's no exception. So you definitely can use that tail to support him standing up correctly. It depends how you pose it, obviously, but he can stand up on these beastly feet quite easily. So that's a really cool thing to know, and silly me, forgot that, so apologies there. But overall, guys, this figure has absolutely lived up to and exceeded my expectations. I've been so excited about this since hearing about this being released, and super pumped that they're finally available here in Australia now through cultureshockcollectables.com. We've got, of course, the second wave of them coming throughout December, and of course Thailog is up there for pre-order, and we will have the others up as well, so make sure you stay tuned to cultureshockcollectables.com and all our socials for that sort of stuff. But as I mentioned, guys, some beautiful detail on this figure, some great articulation through the arms, legs, torso, wings, tail, and of course head, and of course the ankles, etc. So you guys know about the articulation on this. I'm not going to sort of bore you guys with it, but overall absolutely stunning figure, and definitely my front runner for one of the figures of the year. And as you can see, that impressive wingspan and hair from the back looks absolutely awesome. So do yourself a favor, guys, if you can get your hands on one of these anywhere in the world, make sure you do. We do ship worldwide at cultureshockcollectables.com, so you can check it out there, and we will be able to get that to you no matter where you are in the world. So until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you've liked what you've seen and what you've heard, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and of course, until next time, we'll see you guys in the virtual toy.